Hello and welcome back. If you've seen my previous video about moving assets from Blender to Unreal, and if you haven't, worth checking out. Now let's talk about ray casting or line tracing. As I promised, I'll show only the essence of what I'm doing. It will be only the ray casting without anything around the outside. When the important points that you might be interested in learning, I'll point them out, but they won't be considered in this video. So this video will be only about ray casting. So let's start off by seeing why we need it and what it's all about. Well, this is the basic layout of the first level of my game, which as you can see will be taking place in the kitchen, and the act will be able to interact with everything you see here. So if you would have done it by collision boxes like I did it with the fridge, well, he would be walking around the scene, everything would be opening and shutting at the same time. It would be a big mess and it wouldn't be what we want. So what we want is a system where if the actor looks at something, presses a key, he interacts with that and that only. So how will we do that? The basic idea is to have a system where if you look and press a key, you shoot out a ray, the ray hits an object, you get the information about the object, and then you interact with the object. So we understand from that there are two sides to the implementation of this idea. First side is in the actor itself, where you shoot out the ray and detect the object, and then you call a function in the object which does what you want it to do. Without talking so much about it, let's start and implementing it. So first things first, we have to go into the actor and implement that side of things. So we go to content, I have my player. Now this is a point where I am going to show only the very basic way of doing it. The more generalized way of doing it is to set up the input through the player controller, and therefore then if you change your pawn at any point, you still get the same functionality. But we're going to focus only on the implementation of ray casting. So I went into the character, and now let's hit the right mouse button and write line trace, and we will take line trace by channel, and this is going to be the heart of the system. First we have to take care of the inputs on the left of the node. So we want something to trigger this line trace. Pull off of this thing and let's hit the F key, and we can select this. It's keyboard events, and we want the F because it's very common to interact using the F. So now when the user hits the F key, line trace will be triggered. Now, as we know, a ray starts off at a point in space and goes out in a certain direction. So the first thing we want to take care of is where the ray will start. I want to start the ray, and it's going to come out of the character and be shot into the world. I want to start it from the character's camera. Okay, so we want the ray to start at the camera and to go along the principal axis of the camera. So we pull the camera out and get a reference to the camera, pull off of this pin here and look for world location. And here it is. We want get world location, and that will be where the ray starts from. Second thing we need for a ray is the direction. So let's pull off again from here and get world rotation. The world rotation is given in angles, and that's not good for us. We want a unit vector pointing in the direction of the ray. If you don't know what a vector is, you can imagine it as an arrow in 3 dimensions or in any dimension pointing in a given direction. And what we need is a unit vector pointing in the direction to pull the ray. So let's pull this off and say get forward vector. So now what we have is a camera location. So all we have to do is add this vector plus vector to the camera location, and this would be what we call the end of our ray. So what we have to this point is a trigger that will trigger our line trace, and we've set up the start to be at the world location of the camera and the end to be at the direction the camera is looking 150 units forward. Now to prove this is working, we can go down to draw debug types and just hit persistent and compile and save. Go into our viewer and play. So now we can walk around, and when I hit F, it looks like nothing happened, but when I turn sideways, you see this line. This is the trace where from the camera, which was over here, pointing all the way to 1.5 meters forward. So if I go up to any of the objects and hit F, we see it hits that object at that red point there. Go up to a different object, hit F, and again we have what we wanted. So that's all very good and nice, but we want to do something with it. So what we want is the output to affect the objects. So we go to our out hit, pull off of it, and one of the things it offers you is break hit results. Then hit that and expand it. And now we want to look at the hit actor. In our case, we will want to convert it to one of the actors I know which exists. So we call it cast to corner cabinet. That would be the cabinet in the corner. And to trigger this cast, we hook this up to here, and we will have at this point a corner cabinet triggered by the raycast we've just created, and we will be able to call any function within it. So to have a function, we have to go into the corner cabinet and we want to create an event which can be triggered. Then right click, now there's a nice shortcut. You hit period or dot 3 times and you get add custom events. We'll add a custom event and we say open door. And as I promised, I won't bog you down with all kinds of different details. Then all this will do is print string, which would say I would open the door if I had code to do so. So every time this event is called, compile and save, every time this event is called, it will print in the top left corner of our viewport this nice message. Let's jump back to the player, and as a corner cabinet, what we would like to do, we would like to open the door, and this is automatically hooked up for us. Save and compile, and let's go over to our viewport and play the level. We trace into the fridge, nothing happens. Trace at the faucet, nothing happens. Trace at the corner cabinet. And as we didn't hit, nothing happens. When we go closer, we can see over here in the left, I would open the door if I had code to do so, which is what we wanted to do. So that's all there is to it. Let's go over it just one more time so we have it clear in our head. We started off by setting up the line trace by channel. We hooked it up to an event which will trigger it. We set up the start and the end. In our case, the start was the origin of the camera and the end was a little bit of math around the direction. And off the output, we broke the hit results, took an actor and acted on an event which we have in it. Next time I might show how to open a door, but that is quite simple and there are millions of other tutorials about that. I hope this was helpful. If it was, please leave a comment. I love to see the comments, and have a good day.